There's so much more for you, and you get to decide whatever you want your life to be, whatever path you want to take. That's up to you.
Hi, welcome to Ignite Your Passion with me, Bonnie Lang. Today's guest is Vincent Jones. He's a math professor, hockey player, and triathlete. Take a listen to how persistence can be so rewarding. Good morning. How are you doing, Vince?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm super
Good.
excited
Yeah.
to just get to chat with you. This is my first type of interview with a triathlete.
Well, this is my first podcast ever, so likewise.
Fantastic. Well, so tell us first where you grew up and then where you're living now and then where you're at right now,
Okay.
this moment in time.
All right. Well, I grew up originally in Orange County, Southern California, and then we moved to San Diego. So I spent the majority of my childhood in San Diego. I lived there till I was 18 years old. Met my wife actually in high school. We got married right when I turned 21. I'd been 21 for a month. She got into vet school up in Northern California in Davis. I'd never even heard of Davis, which is right near Sacramento. So now we're up here in Sacramento. She's a veterinarian. We have 4 kids. I have a 19-year-old son and triplet daughters who are now 17. So yeah, that was a little crazy.
Oh
And
my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah, it was nuts. And yeah, I'm currently teaching math at the community college up here. And I work at Rancho Endurance Sports now part-time. I walked in a couple months ago and they hired me to work here. So now I sell triathlon gear and do that stuff part-time too. I'm the vice president of the Sacramento Tri Club. I'm also part of the Rancho Endurance Sports Triathlon Club. So, and I play ice hockey up here. So yeah, I've been in Sacramento since '95 and just enjoying it, having a really good time.
Wow, incredible. So you are a math professor. That's your full-time job. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep, that's
So
correct.
what inspired you to start teaching math?
That was actually interesting. I loved math my whole life, always loved it, but was not very good at it at all. Struggled with it tremendously. Like my grades in English and history were always pretty good, but my math grades were always just kind of struggling, but I loved it. I even enjoyed getting the wrong answer a lot of times because I could go back and like figure it out like a puzzle and try to figure out where I went wrong. But my grades in math were always like C's, never got A's in math at all. So when I moved up to Davis with my wife, I was just like, well, I wanted to start going to college because she was always studying, doing her veterinary stuff. So I was like, well, I want to take some classes and just see, what I can do. And just every time I took a math class, I loved it, but my grades were just C's and B's and sometimes D's, and I was just struggling and struggling. And then eventually it just started to keep going, just kept working at it. And my counselors were telling me, change majors, go to a different school, like you're not going to make it. And I was just like, once someone tells me I'm not going to make it, I'm like, okay, now I really need to try. So I stuck with it and eventually got my math degree there. And now I teach. I love it. Like I love math. I love teaching math. I love talking to the students about it. Like it's an enjoyable job. Like I never had a job until I started teaching that I actually loved. Like I don't dread waking up and going. It's just a blast. So absolutely love that job.
And then, so where do you teach currently?
I teach at American River College up here. It's a community college. So it's about 10 minutes from my house. So it's nice. It's a huge community college, tons of classes, tons of opportunities. Colleagues are great. Students are great. Like couldn't be happier.
Oh, how cool. So when did you decide that you were going to start doing these triathlons? Like your very first one, when did you decide that I'm going to do this?
So that is an interesting story too. It was my wife's brother, Dave. He's my brother-in-law, obviously. And he told me about this back in like 1999. He's like, I want to start doing these things, triathlons. And I was like, well, like, what is it? I didn't even know what it was. And he says, well, you swim, you bike, and you run. So we signed up for this little race. It was a little sprint race, which was a 500-yard swim, probably a 12-mile bike, and then you just run a 5K at the end. I didn't have a bike, I didn't have anything. So he's like, you can use my mountain bike. And he gave me a helmet. It was Specialized as the brand. And he shaved off some of the letters. So my helmet said special ed the whole time. It was so bad. So I thought, well, these distances are small enough, so I can just do it. It sounds easy enough. And they always sound easy. I jump in the water and all these people are there and I'm getting kicked and getting hit. And I had to eventually swim on my back. I couldn't swim very well. Got on my mountain bike and was riding and just it was like horrible. It was the worst experience ever. I crossed the finish line. He's all, so what'd you think? I'm like, never again. Like, I'm never gonna do this again. Like, I hated it. And then like 2 days later, he's like, hey, there's one in Arizona. We can go do it in Arizona. Do you want to do it with me? And I'm like, oh man. So I'm like, okay, let's do it anyways. Let's try it again. But it's I thought it was in the desert. Turns out there's just snow on the ground. Swimming in this water is freezing cold. My hands are numb. I'm frozen to my handlebars. I'm just like, this is the worst ever. But then I finished it and I felt like, wow, I can't believe we did that. Like, it was just so cool. So from there, it just got bigger and bigger and the races got longer and more challenging. So then I did my first half Ironman, which is 70.3 miles. That was in 2006. And then it's just been going and going and going since then. But yeah, it was definitely Dave, her brother, that got me into the sport. And now he's still doing it, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, he's back with me now. We're doing these things a lot now.
Well, tell us about, you were recently in Alaska competing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us about that, what it was like.
So that was an adventure. So that was in August, and Dave was there. And Dave and I are pretty much the same speed. He's a little bit faster swimmer, and he's probably a little bit faster on the bike, but I'm usually a little bit of a faster runner. So we train together, we do everything together. The water, I mean, the Alaska, when you just see it, was breathtaking. I mean, there's glaciers there. While you're in the lake, you see the glaciers there. I mean, it's beautiful, so beautiful. Rainforest everywhere. It was in Juneau. And there's just these waterfalls coming down everywhere. The bike course was beautiful. The run course, you're running through the rainforest. It's just amazing to see. So I got out there and I'm just like, it's pouring rain. And I'm just like, oh. And initially I'm like, oh, this is gonna suck. Like, I don't want to do this. But whatever, like, let's just get it done. So I started swimming, we get out of the swim, I'm on my bike, and I'm just like, oh, it's freezing. I have a windbreaker on, and it's acting like a parachute, like it's just blowing. And I'm just like, this is like, what am I doing out here? And then something happened to me out there on that bike where I was just like, this is amazing. Like, how many people get to be in Juneau right now and experience what I'm experiencing? So my watch died. I didn't have any time. I wasn't paying attention to anything. My family was there. All my kids were there. I get off the bike, they're cheering. I knew Dave was already ahead of me. And I'm just like, this is really cool. Like, this is what it's about. It was just a spectacular experience. So I start running and I finally see Dave and I catch him. I catch up to him and I'm just like, you know what? Who cares about time? Like, the volunteers there and the people in the city were just unbelievably supportive, like super friendly. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stop and say hi to all these people. They're taking pictures of us. We're just having the greatest time. Like, the community really, really embraced the athletes in Juneau.
Yeah.
So we took it all in. We finished the line together. We've never crossed a race together, ever. It's always, we're competitive.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to stay with him. Stayed with him. It was just, to me, that was the race that changed everything for me. My whole mentality, it changed from trying to like PR or be competitive to just take in the moment, take in the scenery, enjoy the people, and really take in the experience, which is what I did on that race. But it was unbelievable. I could not recommend that more.
Oh, wow.
It was fun.
Tell us about your training. Like, what do you do to get ready for this?
So for a full Ironman, the swim is 2.4 miles, and the bike is 112 miles, and then you run 26.2. You run a marathon. So to train for that, ideally, I try to put in 6 months of like hard training. And your training can go, basically, I try to cap it out about 20 hours a week would be the maximum. I don't go more than that. And then you usually taper a couple weeks before race day. But yeah, you put in 20 hours initially, and then you taper down. But with so many races I'm doing now this year because of COVID and everything, like, there's no taper period. Like, it's just been on target now for like the last 3 years. But yeah, it's a lot of hours. It's a commitment for sure. But if you do like a half Ironman, obviously your training would go a little bit less, or if you're going to do like a sprint or an Olympic size race, it can get smaller than that. But yeah, you're generally looking at between 20 and 30 hours a week for the people that are doing a full.
So question, you were mentioning like after your second race, you were like, I don't really like this. What kept you doing it? Because you're getting ready to do your 12th triathlon. And is that correct?
Yeah, well, this is my 12th full. I've done 28 halves, and I've probably done 50 like smaller ones. But for some reason with these sports, it seems to be a general theme that when people are out there doing it, they hate it. It's painful. They're miserable. But then when you're done and you accomplish it, the next day they're always like, when's the next one? Like, let's sign up for another one. So that's the mentality I kind of had. When I was out there, it was painful. It was brutal. I probably cried out there. I don't remember. But when I was done, I remember looking at him, we were looking at each other, and we're like, we just swam and we came out of the water into the snow. A lot of the pros tapped out, like they didn't even finish it. So I'm like, what we did was pretty amazing. So when's the next one? And then we just signed up for another one, and it just kept going from there.
Wow.
So yeah, it was rough, but yeah, definitely loved it.
So then do you also focus on your diet like when you're training? Like,
So
no.
I figured you would ask about my diet. And I told her, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do this podcast. I'm super excited. I know she's probably going to ask about my diet. So should I give the coach answer or should I give my actual answer?
You should give your truthful answer.
I know. Well, that was the general consensus. Okay, so I'm coaching right now. I'm starting to coach. I'll be certified here in like a month. So I know all the things about electrolytes and proteins and calories and carbs and all the things you're supposed to say. And when people come into the store, I tell them what I'm supposed to say. But I also play ice hockey, and that group of people is a lot different than my triathlon group of people. So ice hockey consists of going to the bar, drinking, eating, onion rings and potato chips and just garbage. So one day a week, I eat garbage and I go out with those guys. And whenever Dave wants to, hey, you want to grab a beer? I'm supposed to say no because I'm training, but I'll never say no. Like for me now, life is way too short for me to just be like, I'm not going to do something I want to enjoy because of this. When I was younger, I was going to live forever, so I didn't care. But now I'm like, you know what? If I want a hamburger, I'm going to eat one. So the only thing really to answer that question is the only diet change I really make when I'm training is I don't eat fast food. Like I don't eat any of that stuff, but I'll still have a beer. I'll still eat hamburgers. I still eat red meat. Like I eat all the things you're not supposed to eat still if I want them. I just kind of dial it back. I don't eat as much of it as I normally would if I'm not training.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, tell us about the ice hockey as well. So you got several passions that you're like just chasing, and I love that because it doesn't have to be just one thing, right?
No, definitely not. No, I have a lot of different things I'm doing. So my ice hockey team, I started playing ice hockey in high school, and then I stopped and I got married and I moved to Sacramento, and I was teaching at the high school, and one of my students just randomly says, yeah, I'm going to go see my uncle play ice hockey up in Sacramento, up in Roseville, which is right near Sacramento. So I asked him, I'm like, there's ice hockey in Sacramento? And he's like, yeah. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I went up, I did the learn to play class again to try to get back into it. I started this hockey team called the Puck Hogs 20 years ago. My son was born in 2003. So my dream was to someday play hockey with my son, but you have to be 18. He literally just joined the Puck Hogs 3 weeks ago. It's his first season on the team. I love it. It's so much fun playing hockey with your own kid. Yeah, I couldn't be more excited about it. I've been doing hockey forever. These guys are fun. They tease me about the triathlon. They say, well, you're not a real athlete. That's a hobby. That's not a real sport. Like, it's just this constant ribbing from those guys. But it's fun. Like, it's a totally different thing, obviously. Like ice hockey, your body's a lot different than it would be for like a triathlete. Like ice hockey, you're a little bit bigger. You might have a little bit of a beer belly, but for triathlon, you're supposed to be lean and mean. It's just, so yeah, it's kind of fun bouncing between the two worlds, but I make it work, and I love both of them very much. So yeah, it makes it interesting though, for sure.
So how do you balance all of these things though? I mean, the family,
Yeah.
and then, teaching and the training for the triathlon and then the
So
ice
that
hockey.
it's busy for sure. It helps that I don't sleep very much. But the best thing that happened for me, honestly, is the job I have, my teaching job.
Yes.
Um, Once I got full time, which was like 11 years ago, I didn't have to work 5 days a week. I could do a bunch of hours, 4 days a week. So I had Fridays off. And my goal when I started doing all this was I never want to train all day if my family's at home. Like I don't want to take away a family day to go ride my bike or whatever.
Yeah.
So once I started teaching and they were like, you can work Monday through Thursday, but you got to work, your 40 hours. I was like, okay, so I can have Fridays off and my wife's at work, my kids are at school. So that really was the difference for me is I could train all day Friday and I wasn't missing my family time. Hockey games are like 11 o'clock at night on Fridays, so everyone's in bed anyway. So that doesn't take away any of my family time either. So that worked out for me. So I could train early in the morning when everyone's sleeping. I could train all day Friday when everyone's at work. And I could play hockey in the middle of the night, so no one cared. So I was still able to do my family time thing. So that actually works out for me. So I was able to make it work, but it was definitely more challenging when the kids were small. Like I wasn't able to do nearly the things I do now when the kids were little, but now they're adults. My son, like I said, is 19 and my daughters are 17. So my time is a lot freer than it used to be.
Well, and you're getting some family time with your son again.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. So I get to play hockey with him, which is nice. And then my son and one of my daughters and my wife are all doing a half Ironman with me next year. So now we're all training together
Oh, wow.
to do that one in Salem, Washington, or Oregon. So that's going to be fun. So they're actually half of my kids are actually excited about doing it too. So that works
Oh
out
my
too.
gosh. That's so cool. I love it. So
It
then
works.
does Rancho Endurance Sports also help sponsor some of the races that you do?
They do. They work well with our local. We have a company out here called Total Body Fitness, TBF, and they work well together. They work well with Sacramento Tri Club, and they put on races and they have everything at the store. So Rancho does all the things. They'll fix all the bikes, especially now with Ironman coming to Sacramento this week. Like we're just packed. Like we open up here in a couple hours. And once those doors open, it's going to be people coming in and get their bikes tuned up. They're going to get wetsuits, pumps, like CO2 cartridges, helmets, like whatever they need.
Oh,
So
wow.
Rancho is like really close. This community surprisingly is very supportive of the triathlon world. But yeah, Rancho Endurance Sports is the #1 triathlon store in the area. So yeah, they do a lot with the triathlon world out here.
So what is your schedule like there since you've got school and
So they're very nice. It's super flexible. So again, I look at what my wife's work schedule is. I try not to work on days when she's off because I want to have that time with her. So it's random. Like they'll literally call me and say, "Hey, can you work this day, this day? What days can you work?" And I just kind of tell them. So I'll leave my college job and I'll come here for a few hours. If my wife's working on a Sunday, I'll try to work, or a Saturday, I'll try to work. So yeah, they're super, super flexible. If it was a set schedule and it took away time from my family, I wouldn't be able to do it. But yeah, they're very accommodating with all that stuff. So it works out.
so tell us more about your brother-in-law Dave.
He's he's the best. Like we're definitely like our ride or die guy kind of guys. He's like me in that we both take the sport seriously enough to be competitive, but not too serious where we compete and get angry about it. There's no hostility, super supportive of everybody. But yeah, he's my guy where it's like, let's go do this race. Let's put in a full day of work and then let's go grab a picture afterwards and some hamburgers. And he's always down for that kind of thing. It's a perfect mix for me when it comes to this stuff. Yeah, just really, really good dudes. This is my wife's brother. And he just became a grandpa actually like a month ago. So yeah, he's 51 now, I think. And yeah, just had a little granddaughter. So super cute.
Oh,
Yeah, he's
congratulations.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, so he's the best. It works out really nice that my best friend and my wife are like, like siblings. So I see them both all the time. Like those two people, without them, like I would not be the person I am right now.
So then where do you get your inspiration and motivation?
Honestly, I'd have to give most of that credit to my wife and probably my grandparents. They recently passed, but yeah, my grandparents were always the ones. And yeah, my sister would tell you the same thing about them. Like they're amazing people. But when I was a kid, they would say things like, you know, you're really smart, but you know, you're kind of lazy. And I was very lazy. But when somebody you respect tells you you're lazy, it's like, wow, that kind of hits home. Like you can cry about it and you can be a victim about it, or you can like listen to them and be like, well, maybe they're right. So they inspired me, and they were always like, you know, you can do whatever you want to do. You just got to like find what you're passionate about and you got to do it. And I just never had passion for anything until I started going to college or until I found triathlons. And then I've failed so many times. Like I failed in school when I started. I failed in triathlons when I started. And I don't tell that to most people. Like they don't know that I didn't finish my first 2 full Ironmans that I tried, but I did. So I think it makes me a better triathlete. It makes me a better coach. I can share that with people. But throughout that whole journey, my wife was always just like, hey, you'll figure it out. I support you. Whatever you're going to do, like I support you. And she's always been there for me. So when I do these races, I see her out there in the pouring rain and she's supporting me. And it's just like, so she definitely would be the catalyst to me, like finding my goals and reaching my goals. Because without her, there's no way I would have been able to do any of this.
I can totally relate to that because
Oh, good.
I was in a situation where it wasn't as supportive in my, goals and dreams. And now I have someone that's just so supportive that it's given me so much confidence that nothing's going to stop me from
Right.
doing what I want to do. And it's so nice to just have that someone there, to support you, even if it's
Absolutely.
friends, I mean, I
Yeah.
have a lot of friends that support what I do too. And gosh, that means so much. It's,
Yeah. That's the game changer for sure.
yeah, it just changes your attitude and perspective on everything.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you have a little security knowing that you have someone that's got your back, which is just huge, right? You need someone to have your back when you're doing these things, but you also don't want them to support everything. Like if you're doing something dumb, like if I do make a dumb decision, my wife will be the first one to be like, I think that's a stupid decision. I still
Yeah.
support you, but I really think you ought to sleep on it and think about it. Like she's
Yeah.
smart. So then I usually sleep on it and I change my mind and I realize it was a stupid decision.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
having
totally
someone in your
relate.
for sure. Having someone in your corner is like that's you need that. That's critical in these types of things.
So, what do you want listeners to know about you and your path?
For me, I would say uh don't ever stop trying whatever it is, right? Because I could have quit. Like I said, when I started school, I failed my first couple classes when I transferred to UC Davis, and I failed my first triathlons. So for me, the best thing about failing is that I actually know my limitations now. And people that succeed at everything and never fail, to me, that's just like you didn't set your goals high enough and you don't know what your limitations are. So they'll go through life and they'll finish all these things and they'll do exceptional and they'll talk about it, but it's like, well, maybe you could have done more. Like until you actually hit rock bottom, until you actually can't do something, you really don't know what your limitations are. I know what my limitations are when it comes to my academics because I started my PhD program and I couldn't do it. So I was like, all right, well, master's degree, that was it. I've done triathlons and I failed them. And I could have stopped there, but I was like, no, other people are doing it. So I got to keep trying. And then I did. And now I'm pretty successful at it, which is nice. So I don't know what the next thing is now. So now it's like my wife's doing trail running. We're talking about doing 100-mile trail run and all these crazy things. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Like I'll do whatever. I'll try anything. And I'm not afraid to fail because I've been there. I know what it feels like. And I'm totally comfortable if I fail again. It's not a problem for me. So for me, I would just say, tell anybody, just keep trying. And if you fail, it's not the worst thing. In fact, it could actually help you become a better person. So
Oh,
I didn't mind my failures at all.
I love it. And that's pretty much my next question is the advice that you give them on doing what they're passionate about.
Right. Yeah, I mean, don't I like I would not let anybody tell you you can't do it. right? Like I mentioned with my grandparents, I would want to find people that I trust. And when they tell you something, listen to it. Don't get defensive. Just take it in. And the people that aren't necessarily on your side, they kind of don't want the best for you, ignore them because they're not going to be around forever. And at some point, you get to choose whether or not you want them in your life. And you don't have to have them in your life. So just never stop trying and setting goals. Like if you want to be a pilot or you want to be a hockey player or you want to be an astronaut, like whatever, you can do it. Like don't ever stop setting goals. And once you reach a goal, set another one. And if you achieve that goal, set a higher one. Like just keep doing something because that's what living's about, right? When I'm a kid, it's like I didn't care. I'm gonna live forever. Time was not an issue. But now that I'm almost 50, it's like I need to start doing things that I really am passionate about. I want to live. I want to take in the experiences and the excitement and the joy of all these things that I probably would have missed out on if I didn't set these goals.
So then do you sit down and write down your goals and say 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, or do you just mentally, how do you go about that?
So for me, sometimes I write them down. I used to write them down, but now they just kind of find me. Like someone will say something and I'll just do it now. So now because I'm kind of out there and I meet a lot of people, someone will walk into the store and be like, "Hey Vince, you want to do this 100-mile endurance run with me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds cool." So now that's a goal.
Oh, gotcha.
My goals now for triathlon is so this will be my 12th one. And after you do 12 full Ironmans, you get to go to the championship again. So I'll be in Hawaii, hopefully next year.
Ooh.
So that's a goal now, but it wasn't a goal when I started. My goal when I started this was never do 12 full Ironmans and then go to Hawaii. It was do one.
Get through this race.
That's what it was. It was absolutely just do one race. I did one. In 2013, I did one. I was done. And I was 39 at the time. And my wife was like, "You know what? Ironman's coming to Canada. They're going to do Whistler, Canada." I'm like, "Okay." And she's like, "Well, it's on your 40th birthday." I was like, "Oh, like I love Canada and it's my birthday." So I'm like, "Okay, well, I have to do it." So now I'm doing two. And I'm like, "All right, two's cool. Two's fine." So I did that one. And then after that one, I was like, "Well, two's kind of a dumb number. Like three just sounds cooler." So you did three. So I signed up for another one. And then it came to Santa Rosa, which is in California. I'm like, "Well, it's right down the street, so I got to do that one." So then I did, and it just kept going and going, and it never stopped.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't a goal that I wrote down. It wasn't a goal I even had in my mind. It's just something that fell into my lap, and I'm super passionate about it, and I love it. And the people I meet doing this sport are unlike any other athletes I've ever met in my life. Like, one of the coolest things about this sport is you will learn to have confidence because you accomplished something great, but you're also going to have humility because you're going to feel so much pain and you're going to suffer out there so much that it's not just all this confidence. You're not just a superstar because you're going to be limping when you're done. You're probably going to cry out there. It's going to be painful.
Oh, wow.
A lot of it's going to suck. So it's a good combination of building up confidence, but also building up that humility. So this sport to me is unlike any of those other sports.
Oh, wow. I never knew this part of it. I've never done a triathlon. I'm not much of a runner. I like to ride my bike, but it's an electric bike, I must admit.
That's okay.
But
Well,
wow.
now you know somebody that does them. So if you have any questions.
Yes.
But one of the coolest things about this is I see people do these things. And when they start off, it's always, "I did an Ironman." And even Ironman's slogan is swim 2.4, bike 112, run 26.2, and then brag for the rest of your life. And I'm like, I don't know if brag is really the message we want to be giving. So when people do these things, they're super excited and I love it. And a lot of times they're crying at the end and that makes me emotional. I see them accomplish this goal. And I used to be that way. When I first finished one, I was like, "Yeah, I'm an Ironman." And I was super excited. And I still am excited, but it's different. I used to wear the gear and I wanted the tattoo and I had all the stickers on my car and I did all that stuff. But now it's like, when someone comes in and they're like, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing a 5K. I've never done one." Oh my God, I get so excited for them.
Yeah.
No matter what it is. If it's a 5K or a 10K or a half marathon or a sprint triathlon, whatever it is, super excited for them. I love just seeing people set a goal and trying to achieve that goal. And whether they make it or not doesn't really matter. To me, it's just they're setting a goal and they're trying, like they're living, they're doing something outside their comfort zone, which to me just gets me excited. So I love that. So if you ever wanted to do one, you wouldn't be disappointed. You would love it. But whatever you do is going to be great. And you're doing a lot right now anyways. It isn't like you're sitting around. So you're pretty busy.
Yes, this week I'm like, holy moly, I've got an audition to do that's due today. I've got podcasts that's due today. I've got so many things. And I'm like, how am I going to end the grocery store? And how am I going to do all this? Calm down, write everything down and kind of just like take it off your mind. And I like to write it down. It's like, okay. And memorize. I'm memorizing a script that I got yesterday.
God, look at you.
Holy moly. Like, can I do this? Yes, I've already got almost all the script memorized. Thank goodness. And so we're crazy. Do the audition today. And so, yeah, crazy.
Oh, you're doing the audition today?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
wow. Good luck.
It's from home though. But yeah,
crazy.
Memorizing all the lines and stuff. And I don't have a great memory. So, well, but I'm coming along. So yeah, it'll work out. But
that's exciting. It can't be, your memory can't be that bad if you're doing this. So that's super exciting. Really cool.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. You know, sometimes it takes really hard work, you know, to get things. And sometimes not everything, you just have to decide what's priority, you know,
right.
What am I going to do? I'm sure that's what you have to do as well. What's priority today, you know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're very busy and you probably would agree to this too, but it seems like the more things we have on our plate, the more stuff we actually get done.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You think if I have all this free time, I can get all these things done, but the people with the free time aren't getting anything done. It's the people that have so much to do are accomplishing so many things. So yeah, you're super busy. Congratulations on that. Good luck.
Well,
good luck with your script.
And we're actually getting ready to release 2 new singles, a Christmas song and then another, just a love song for Christmas as well. And so all that, the photo shoots and then doing the music videos, that's all. And it's funny because like last week wasn't really busy, but it's like this week is like, wah, you know, but it'll all calm down. Like we said, prioritize. So.
Oh yeah, well that's really exciting. Congratulations, by the way. That's really cool.
Thank you. Thank you. So then, well, if you could look back at your younger self, what would you tell yourself?
Well, I kind of talked about it earlier. For me, it's like when I was a kid, I didn't have the easiest upbringing as a kid. So I had my grandparents and I had my sister, Regina. So it's like I took what they said to heart because I trusted them and I respected them. But there are so many people that come in your life and they might be your friends, they might be some family members, and some of those people are just not there to help you become a better person. And I wish when I was a kid, someone would have said, hey, all these toxic people that are in your life right now, you get to eventually choose whether or not you want them in your life. You're going to get to choose. And you're going to get to choose, even if it's family members, you're going to get to choose if you want to have a relationship with them or not.
Yeah.
So I wish I had known that, because as a kid, I just felt like I'm going to have to hear this forever. For the rest of my life, I'm going to have to hear you're not that smart or you're, you know, some other negative thing. But none of that's true. Like once you're gone and once you're an adult and once you kind of have your own confidence, you get to decide who's in your circle and you get to pick. And to me, that's something I didn't really get as a kid. Like none of that stuff really matters when you're younger. And I didn't know it because at the time, I mean, I see it with my kids now, everything they're going through to them is the end all be all. Like that's their world. And it's so hard to tell somebody that age, look, none of this is really going to matter once you're older. It's really not. There's so much more for you. And you get to decide whatever you want your life to be, whatever path you want to take, that's up to you. And I didn't know that at the time. And I wish someone had told me that. So that's the message I try to tell my kids now. But it is hard telling a 17-year-old girl that prom doesn't really matter. So I have to choose my words wisely when I talk to them.
Oh. Well, your blessing. I mean, it's a blessing that I know your sister, and we were getting together for lunch. Her and a group of girls, we would get together every month, but we've kind of gotten so busy. We need to do that again. But she's so incredible, and then that's how I met you. And
Yeah,
so, thank you so much for being here today and just sharing your journey with us. And it's truly inspiring.
thank you, Bonnie. It's been a pleasure. Like I said, it was my first podcast, so it was exciting. Thank you for being so nice about everything.
And then if anybody has any questions, how can they find you if they want to ask you some questions about training or starting?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I love talking to people about anything. I'll even talk about math. I don't care. But yeah, I have my Facebook is just Vincent Jones. My Instagram, I think it's PuckHogs3 because my hockey number is 3. But yeah, if they have any coaching questions or they just want to talk about it or they just want advice about it,
Yeah.
yeah, I would say try to look in your local community, look for a triathlon club. They're everywhere. A lot of people don't know about them.
Okay.
Look for companies that are doing like little triathlons or join a club or find a friend that will do it with you. But yeah, if anyone has any advice or questions about, or wants advice or has any questions about it, more than happy to help. Like I love talking about this sort of thing with people. So definitely
Yes.
happy to help. But yeah, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram.
Well, good luck with your race this weekend.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It was very nice meeting you, Bonnie. I appreciate your time.
It was so nice meeting you too. This was so wonderful. And remember, don't ever stop trying. If there's something that makes you happy, don't stop. Send me a message, tell me what you think, and don't forget to check out previous episodes and always share these with a friend. I'd love you to help get this inspiration out into the world. I really appreciate you, and don't forget I also have a new membership page. I share inspiring messages every week. So just visit bonnielang.com/ignite and please subscribe to this podcast. I hope you have a wonderful day, sending you peace, love, happiness, and hugs.